Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm here today to talk a little bit more about Peter's letters, or letter today, in First Peter. And when you know about Peter and you know his situation, which I talked about last week, then these letters make a little more sense. Well, let's look today at First Peter chapter 2, verses 9 through 12. And here's what we find out. He says that you are a chosen people. You are a royal priest, a holy nation, God's very own possession. As a result, you can show others the goodness of God, for he called you out of the darkness into his wonderful light. And he quotes here, once you had no identity as a people, now you are God's people. Once you received no mercy, now you have received God's mercy. Dear friends, I warn you as temporary residents and foreigners to keep away from worldly desires that wage war among your very souls. Be careful to live properly among your unbelieving neighbors. Then, even if they accuse you of wrongdoing, they will see your honorable behavior and they will give honor to God when he judges the world. Okay, let's take a look at this. Remember, Peter is a guy who was chosen by God, and he fell away. If you remember what I shared last week, the night of the arrest, he was nowhere to be found as a strong supporter of Jesus. And then he gets redeemed and he suddenly changes back to this profound follower who walked away from everything he had known when Jesus first called him. Here he says that you, me, you, are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's very own possession. Now, if I were to ask you, who are you? Would you have used any of those words? Probably not. You see, we don't see ourselves as God sees us. Most of the time, people put themselves down or deny their strengths. Oh, yeah, there are a few, I'm not sure what the best word is for them. People out there who like to tell you how great they are. But it's not most people. And most of those who tell you how great they are aren't very great. But God sees us in a different light. He sees us not in terms of what we have accomplished in life, this life. He sees us on the inside as to who he has redeemed. Now, if you've never asked the Lord into your life, okay, I get it. What's the point? It's all hocus pocus anyway, and the only thing that counts is today. Well, that philosophy's been around since the earliest recording of civilizations. The Greeks were very big on that philosophy, and I'm sure others before them. The Romans, that were very powerful as a country, really had an attitude of, well, if you were one of the elite, living an incredibly wealthy and pampered life. But that's not how God sees you. Now, listen again. You are a chosen people, a royal priest, a holy nation, God's very own possession. You know what that says? That says you are special. Now, maybe you don't think of yourself as special, but you are. When we put our hand in the hand of the Lord, our lives change. And not just for our benefit. It goes on to say, live a good life, because we're more than temporary residents and foreigners. That we need to live a good life so that those who are not Christians or followers of God will believe. People look at you. I don't care whether you're a boss or the least important worker in your company. Doesn't matter whether you're the firstborn or the lastborn. People look at you. They always do. And if you have this understanding deep inside that I'm chosen by God, I belong to Him, and live that attitude that He embraces of grace and compassion, people will notice it. And on the other hand, if you claim to be special in God's eyes and don't live it, people are going to notice that too. And that's not going to be very good. Peter was a man who lived the power of God and then became afraid and threw it away. But even in the midst of that, God still chose him. His hands were still upon him. And as you found out, Peter's story ends being the very standard of a follower of Jesus. Who are you? Who do you call yourself? And if you call yourself something very negative, well, I have a suggestion. Don't. Stop. You're much more than that. Well, I hope you'll think about it. Hope you'll read this scripture on your own and contemplate what it might mean. In the meantime, I want to say that if you have a need or a concern, let us know, and we'll do whatever we can as fast as we can to help you out. And we really mean that. Well, thanks so much for listening. I'll be back tomorrow to finish this series. Until then, God bless you. Take care. I'll talk to you again.